Hi everyone, welcome to Yoga Diaries. Today's Women's Health and Yoga. Today our guest is Jenny Belal. Yes, Jenny, can you please tell about yourself a little bit?
Of course, yeah. So I am a GP. I've been in general practice for 10 years, and I'm also a very keen yogi. I've been practicing yoga for probably about 20 years. Actually, going back to when I was at medical school, that's when I started. So the two things have kind of happened for me for the last 20 years. So I tried to use both of those things together to work with each other. So taking experience from yoga into my medical practice, and the other way around, taking experience from what I've learnt during medicine into my own yoga practice, and when I teach my yoga teachings as well.
Oh, thank you, Jenny. How fantastic. So your yoga experience goes back to your student years, yeah, when you were a medical student?
Yeah, so I started practicing really for personal reasons of trying to get some stress relief when at medical school, because it was difficult studying, and also physical benefits from yoga practice at that time. And obviously, as time has gone on, I've experimented with loads of different disciplines of yoga. I've also done my own teacher training and just learned that it's beneficial for me personally in loads of other ways from those that I started out with. But as I mentioned earlier, just so it can take those experiences into helping my patients in the medical field as well.
Oh, thank you. Today's subject is menopause and endometriosis, and we'll start with menopause. Please, this is one of the most common problems between women, right? And what would you say about the menopause and how yoga can help before or after?
Yeah, so it's definitely something that I consult with patients about a lot every day that I'm in work. It's a big question. I think there's a lot to say, so we try and break it down a little bit. So talking about the perimenopause and the menopause. The perimenopause is the phase where your natural menstrual cycle starts to change because of the hormone levels in your body changing, and with that you'll get quite an unpredictable change to your menstrual cycle. And alongside that come many other symptoms, which can be, some women will get just a few, some women will get the whole lot, and there are loads. So the common things that people talk about are with mental health changes, so irritable mood, anxiety, very stressed, fiery, fluctuant moods, and then there's also the kind of anxiety about changing, because of that time in life you're becoming older, and women do worry about that. That's sort of moving on to a new phase of life. Also, there's quite a lot of physical symptoms, which can be, as I said, that you get just a couple, or you might experience many. I won't go through all of them, but the more common things that people talk to me about are hot flushes, having achy joints, and muscle fatigue, headaches, loads of other things as well. So the menopause is after the perimenopause, so that's when your periods have finished. And for some, the hormone levels are now low, and they're constantly low, so they're not going up and down as they were before. But for some women, they still experience the symptoms that we've just mentioned. Sometimes they're worse. It is really very individual for everybody who's got their own sort of story. But certainly yoga comes in many ways. And I think it can help depending on what your individual symptoms are. There will be something in yoga practice that you can get out of it. So I think, I would say a general rule for me, and not just for people for menopausal symptoms or other health problems, is looking at your energy levels. So if you're feeling like your energy levels are very low, you may want to choose a yoga practice that's going to give you energy and sort of build that up. So some of the more vigorous practices could do that. More often, during perimenopause and menopause, women feel the opposite. They've got quite a lot of fiery emotions there. They need to release some energy, so they may need to look to more calming practices.
Like yin yoga and restorative yoga.
Exactly, yeah. Restorative yoga is something that is very, very beneficial for this group of women. And also looking at the different breathing techniques and styles that can help to provide calm. And that's also helpful for the physical symptoms with the joints as well.
Yeah, so the meditation will benefit emotionally as well, yes.
Absolutely, yeah, the two things will go together. Yeah.
As a male, and we know there's a lot of males really don't know much about these subjects. This is why I wanted to shoot this video. And maybe what would you say to men what they should know, particularly most about what is the most important part of it that they need to know when a partner has a period or menopause, what they should know?
So I think that the first thing is just to be interested and to want to know. And with that, I think as a man, you will learn, because women often, they will want to talk and they will want to share their experiences and tell you. And I think that it's really that about communication. So we've been through some of the symptoms, so being aware that those things can be happening and how distressing they may be to women, but not presuming that everyone has the same experience. So I don't know if men are talking to each other.
They don't say, really.
It's happened to my wife, but it's not the same for everyone.
Yes, interesting. I wonder why men don't know much, or why they don't want to learn much about this. That I haven't got a clue, but it's how it is. Okay, moving on to endometriosis. And what is endometriosis?
So this is a condition that affects quite a large number of women. The exact numbers are not known, because it can be quite difficult to actually make a diagnosis. So the endometrium is the lining of the womb, the lining of the uterus. And endometriosis is when the tissue that is usually found there is actually found outside of the uterus. And that can cause... Some people actually, they don't get symptoms. They wouldn't necessarily know until it's found coincidentally, but it often does cause quite severe symptoms for women, and they would be typically quite painful, heavy, prolonged periods, menstrual periods, and a heavy blood flow, which can be quite distressing. That's essentially what endometriosis is.
So it can be painful, or it cannot be.
Yeah, I mean, it's usually picked up because of pain. So people will they'll present with very painful periods, or very, very heavy periods. Usually it's both. So it can be one or the other, but usually it's both at the same time. Because the endometrial tissue can travel, it usually travels just locally, so around the pelvic area. You can get pain over on one side of the pelvis, abdomen area, but it can move in other parts of the body as well. It's rare to do that, but it can. So you may get symptoms during the menstrual flow elsewhere in the body. So,
and does that carry on if someone has endometriosis? Does it carry on forever, or is there a point where actually completely?
So during the time when you're having periods, menstrual periods, then typically it would continue, but it's not necessarily as severe through that whole time. It can can get worse and better throughout life, and that can be affected by other things going on. For example, stress levels. If women are very stressed, they will often find that their symptoms are much worse, but it doesn't go away as such. You can't cure it. There are treatments that can improve it, can manage it, and can give some respite for periods of time.
So we can you recommend the same things in the menopause when someone has menopause? Practices with asanas or pranayama meditation, both will be working for endometriosis.
Yeah, absolutely. So again, it's looking towards the more calming, restorative practices to help manage the pain symptoms. If you do have heavy flow and bleeding, you're not going to probably want to be engaging with sort of very vigorous yoga practices at that time.
Okay, what would you say about the fertility during this time?
So with endometriosis, unfortunately, it can affect fertility. Not always. So if you do receive a diagnosis, doesn't mean that there will be problems. But if there is endometrial tissue that's found to be blocking the path of the egg once it's released from the ovary into the endometrium, if that path is blocked, then it can affect fertility. So I think that it would encourage anyone who has it, who may be trying to conceive, it's not successful, to seek help from their doctors. But also, I would say there's loads and loads of other factors that come into play when talking about fertility. And one thing from my experience that plays probably more of a role than almost anything else is the women's emotional well-being at the time and the levels of stress. So I think whatever's going on, that is really important to address. And coming back to yoga, I think that is an excellent way to help manage those emotions and the stress. So I think that's a really hopeful way to look at this if you are affected.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Okay, I won't go without asking these questions. Do you have any? We're not supposed to have a favorite yoga poses, but do you have any favorite yoga poses that really is special to you or makes you feel better than other poses?
I love inversions.
Right.
I love the feeling of being upside down. That always brings a big buzz to my my practice, and I really enjoy poses like pigeon pose, like sort of really deep hip stretching poses as well. So that's probably what, if I could pick one to do right now, that's what I would go for.
I guess being a doctor, you are heavily workloaded. Yes, it can be intense time to time, and yoga practice. Do you think it does save you in that sense?
100%, yeah. That as I mentioned at the beginning, that is why I started yoga practice when I was a student, just being really stressed with revising for exams and just needing somewhere to release that stress that was a healthy way. And it taught me then that worked, and it was a good way to manage things. So I've always done that, and almost like the more stressed I am, the more I feel like I need to practice yoga and always feel better. I sort of never regret going into a practice.
Interesting, you said the inversions first. I talk to a lot of people, and quite a lot of people also tell me that they choose inversions, makes them feel better. Sometimes I relate this to being upside down in inversions. Really, it's only physically but emotionally changes the state of emotional state changes when you're upside down. The way you think changes. Mm-hmm. So you start thinking differently, and in that sense, I think a lot of people do like. A lot of people yogis that I talk to, they say the same thing. Yeah, if you're so stressed, we recommend inversions. A lot. We Paratakrani or headstand even. Yeah,
and I think from teaching people who haven't had much experience with it, they often become a little bit scared of inversions, but there's so many ways that you can introduce them in a very safe, it's accessible for everyone really. You don't have to be doing a full handstand to get the benefits of an inversion.
Yes. Being upside down, I guess it could be frustrating for some, just or overwhelming. Yeah. But once you break that point, then it does break a lot of things inside, and inspiring, and allowing you to think differently.
Yeah, and there is a lot of teachings within yoga about energy flow within the body, and as you mentioned, turning upside down can change that flow and make lots of emotions come up. Considering today we're talking about women's health and menstrual cycles, there is sort of a little bit of controversy and debate about inversions during menstrual bleeding, and I think that's all comes back to that sort of the flow and whether that will disrupt it and change things that are not supposed to be being changed at that time.
That is a no in some methods of yoga during the period of time, no inversions. Is it definitely no in your opinion? Is it no?
I would say, for me personally, when I have my period, especially if it's heavy, then I wouldn't want to be doing that anyway. So I think your body tells you, don't do this today. This is not what needs to happen. But other times, towards the end of your period, maybe it feels okay, and I don't think personally that's going to do you any harm. So I think that it's there for a reason, to allow people who maybe are not so confident within a class to say, no, I'm allowed to not do this today. But I strongly believe that your body will tell you if it's something you shouldn't be doing. It'll be saying, I don't feel comfortable with this, let's hold back. And I think that's important to remember with anything in life, and also in yoga practice. If you don't feel like it's the right time for you to do it, then that's probably because it's not.
If you have any questions, please leave the comments below, and if you like to ask any related to subject, any questions, or Jenny will hopefully reply back to your questions. This is it for now. If this is your first time in this channel, please subscribe and like the video to support the channel. In the next video, we will be talking to Rosalind Southwood about forest. She's a senior forest yoga teacher, and she'll be talking about what is forest yoga and what's the difference between forest yoga and other style methods in yoga practices. See you in the next vlog. Goodbye now.
Goodbye.